The star-crossed exotic mission for the Wishkeeper bow has dropped, and we're going to show you every single step that you need to get this exotic bow really easily. It's very easy to do, very simple. We're going to show you all the steps here right now. The very first thing that you need to do might be a little bit annoying, but if you've been keeping up with the story, it's not a big deal. You have to complete the Apophysis story, which means that you have to do all of the different weekly missions before that. So if you haven't done that, find a character that you're comfortable with, knock that out, and get all of those steps done so that you can then progress to get to the Apophysis story. Once you complete that story, it's going to have you go and talk to Crow in the helm. Once you've done that, you can then access the node, which is inside of the helm. It's very easy to find, and then you can launch the exotic mission. It then takes you to the Black Garden, which is really cool to see. This is kind of a combination of Last Wish mechanics, Root of Nightmare raid mechanics, and some other mechanics that they've used inside of dungeons and some other raids. So as you're launching this, make sure that you check out the different modifiers for the mission. It looks like they are going to rotate on a weekly basis. As you're doing this opening section here, you can get stuck over here on this right side. You're basically jumping through a little bit of a jumping puzzle. A lot of people with Strand can just launch themselves up over to where they need to go. But if you are not on Strand, you can go back over here to this little flower here, shoot that, jump up, and then you can follow the path to the left-hand side. Just an easy thing in case if you're on a solar or a stasis subclass, which are the buffs this week, you can easily get to that. By the way, if you are looking to do this solo flawless, or on legend, I'm going to have guides for those coming up very shortly. The mission just launched, but I wanted to give everyone the quest steps, so subscribe if you haven't so that you don't miss those videos in case you are needing help. Now, as Destiny always does, it will introduce the mechanics one by one, and then they combine them in for the final boss fight. The first mechanic you're going to deal with here is how you open up this door here. There is a Last Wish symbol over on the right-hand side. To open the door, you need to get this buff over here in this flower pot called the Sire's Obligation buff, and then you can go kill this enemy that's guarding the door. This is the first mechanic. There's going to be some enemies that you're not going to be able to damage unless if you have the Sire's Obligation buff. Once you knock him out, it will then open the door. You will notice that there is a symbol there, like I mentioned earlier. That's going to be critical in the next phase. So run through this area here. This will take us to our first little boss area. You're going to re-up your buff of the Sire's Obligation, and then you will notice that there are 3 areas where there are Last Wish symbols. You're probably wondering what you need to do with them. Well, you need to go find the door, and once you find the door, you can actually see the order of the symbols. So right here, you can see the order of the symbols. They go from top to bottom, and you're going to clear those symbols from top to bottom based on their Last Wish symbols. There's no other specific puzzle thing other than you need to make sure that you pick up Sire's Obligation and then go kill the enemy next to the symbol that needs to be opened first. And you need to do it in that order. You can't skip one or just kill them all. You have to kill them in a specific order. So right here, I have what I call 8 Snake, and that's our first symbol. So this guy needs to die first. Big thing to know is that these guys are chunky. We are at really high power levels and using even the surges for this particular mission, and they are still very, very beefy. So make sure you bring your power weapons that will absolutely slap these enemies. Once you kill that first boss, that will clear that symbol, and paracausal energies will gather, meaning you've cleared the first symbol. Then go clear the 3 other enemies and clear those symbols as well to open the door. Our group was fast enough, but just in case, keep the buff up at all times. So re-up the buff so that you don't lose it. If you lose the buff, I'm not sure if the door resets, but just double check that and keep the buff up at all times. Then open the door and move to the next area. You will then have a new buff called Dam's Gift, which will allow you to move through these darkness areas that are shown by the orange energy around it. With that new buff, you can then go and kill different enemies. So this is the next battlefield area. Pick up Dam's Gift, and then there will be a Vex enemy that you'll have to kill every time. Don't be afraid of using your super. They are very beefy, just like the bosses in the previous area. Once you've killed all the Vex in this area, the shield will then open at this Vex totem, and then you can deposit your paracausal energy here. It will then clear out all of the Dam's Gift energy once you run through this portal, and all of these areas are connected. At that point, you need to go find the other 2 areas and knock out all of the Vex enemies there. Once that's done, you will then unlock the portal once you kill the Vex Giant Minotaur. He's very easy to kill. He's just basically a giant minotaur, nothing to it. Just a lot of snipers that may try and take you out during this time. But basically just play your life, play safe, and if you need to, play at a distance. And then once the Vex boss is dead, you'll need to make sure you kill all of the other Vex that are in the area to open up the portal. Now, I'm keeping this jumping puzzle on screen because it's a little bit tricky. There are a lot of little spots where you can die if you're not ready for it, so I'm going to show it to you here right now. There's a lot of little traps and stuff as well. Here, there's a very, very small area where you can move through, and you just have to make sure that you wait for all of the rocks to move because it can kill you. Right here, wait for a second to let that rock push off. And then here, you can grapple here, or you can move to the left-hand side. Follow the lights. Once you see where the lights are, they kind of show you where you need to go. And once you're past this next part of the jumping puzzle, you should then be able to go pretty easily and follow the lights, and it's not a big deal. At this point, it will show you the skybox of where you're going to go, which is very pretty, very much a very cool spot inside of the Black Garden. Take the path over here to the right, and then you'll run into a bunch of Vex enemies once you're done with this jumping puzzle. Make sure not to die here. There's just a bunch of enemies here that you have to be careful of. Nothing major. If you do die here, there's not a big deal because it's not a darkness zone, but just be careful and then move through all of these Vex enemies, and then you'll end up in the next area. This is an area where some people get confused because you can get Dam's Gift and then move through here, but you'll notice that you can't actually damage the Big Daddy enemy that is here in this side. It's because you don't have the buff that you need. You have to actually combine both the light and the dark buffs. So here I grabbed Dam's Gift as well as Sire's Obligation, which will give us a new buff called Crowned by Dragons. With that buff, then you can kill all of the enemies through those sides. So you need to pick up both buffs, and then you'll notice that there are symbols again. You have to combine that and read the symbols and kill the enemies in order of the symbols. Now, this is not too crazy. Just watch yourself and play your life in these different areas using a hammer or strand titan or a warlock that is solar or a hunter that is solar. Could be very strong in these areas. Once you've cleared that area, then go to the next area, and when you need to redo your buff, you can either pick up both of them again, or if you are running low on time, you can just stand in either the Dam's Gift or the Sire's Obligation buff to re-up it. Like you can see here, I had the buff and I re-upped it just by standing in the next portal. So very easy to do. Once you've cleared the two sides of the doors, you'll find the final boss down here. You'll have both buffs right here at the base. There's also a rally flag up at the top, which I missed when we did our first run of this. But make sure you pick up both of the buffs, and then you'll be crowned with dragons, and you can do damage to Arcaden right away. Now, other than just making sure that you have the Crowned by Dragons buff, all you need to do is when the shield comes up, there will be some taken phalanxes that you will need to kill. That will take the shield down and allow you to do damage again. Now, you do need to be careful because what will happen is eventually there will be some enemies that can detain you. You need to periodically head over to one of the two sides to get the buffs in this boss area to make sure that you don't die and lose the buff. Once you kill the boss, you are then set to go. An area will open up and you can pick up your Wishkeeper bow. Again, I'll be doing a guide on the legend version of this as well as doing the solo and solo flawless versions of this. It is not too crazy, but those are the general mechanics of it. If you need help with this or help with the legend version, come on over to twitch.tv/ManoDestra. Good hunting, Guardians. I will see you next time.